Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here in the channel, we're going to be talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and its brand new 4K Blu-ray that just came out from Paramount. So Dead Reckoning Part 1 was directed by Christopher McQuarrie again for the third film in a row, stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, bringing him back. We get all of our big players from the previous movies, like Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg back, and we also bring back Rebecca Ferguson as Issa Faust, and we get some new players in this as well, like Hayley Atwell, who is just doing a phenomenal job in this movie. I mean, she is absolutely gorgeous, wearing those pantsuits, tying her ponytail back. We also bring in Palm Clementine, who does a great job in this movie as well. Corey Elwes for the first time, and I wish they would have used him a little bit more. But you know what? Everybody does a great job in this movie, and I want to talk a little bit of spoilers about this before we get to the 4K Blu-ray review. So there is a non-spoiler review here on the channel if you want to check that out and just skip ahead to the 4K Blu-ray review. Or you can sit here, we'll talk a little bit about the franchise as a whole, and then we'll talk about the 4K Blu-ray. So this is your warning. So in this movie, Ethan Hunt is back yet again, and this time he's fighting the evil AI, or as they call it in this movie, the Entity, which is a very topical subject. And I really love this choice that they made because they really did make artificial intelligence feel scary. This could be a kind of silly story, but obviously bringing in somebody from Ethan Hunt's past, and this time it's played by Essie Morales. He's really the face of the AI. The AI is using him as the pawn, and this guy was a big part of Ethan Hunt's past. And this is really the first time we find out how Ethan Hunt became a part of the IMF. Apparently, everybody in the IMF is offered a choice where they can either, go to jail, die, or they could join the IMF and be a part of this agency, the secret agency that could basically solve all these missions that no one else can. And I actually love that in this movie, that we bring Kitchers back for the first time. He's explaining to a room of people, including Corey Ellis' character, about what the IMF is. And even though he's the head of intelligence, he doesn't even know. And Kitchers is like, well, we call them in for what it's really called, impossible missions. What we can't do, we leave a note for somebody. And Corey Ellis is like, so you leave a note for a man, and he can either choose to accept or choose to decline. And everyone's like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. He's like, that's just ridiculous. And I love how meta this movie is, calling out what this franchise has become. I really think that's helping to improve the franchise, bring it forward. We're 7 films in, you got to make some changes, and I really do think that that's the best way to do it, kind of calling out the fact that Ethan Hunt is pretty much a superhero at this point. He could solve all these missions, but Ethan Hunt, he has a heart to him. He really cares about his friends, and they really do explore that in this movie, with Simon Pegg also saying how he cares about his friends in this film. And I think that Tom Cruise brings that to the table. He does bring that to the emotional moments in this movie. It's just showing you that Tom Cruise is a fantastic actor.
You gotta let me go. You gotta let me jump across, or we're gonna die. Do you trust me? You gotta trust me.
He really is in it for the stunts, but he still, when he needs to, you just go, oh yeah, that's the guy from Magnolia. That's the guy from The Firm. He really knows how to act, and he's really underappreciated for it. Right now, we just see him as an action star, and at his old age, it really is just so impressive. They structure these movies just like you would expect. They kind of probably plan out all of the stunts before the movie, and then they kind of fill in the gap with the stories. And I think the story itself is very well done. The death of Rebecca Ferguson's Issa Faust in this movie is just absolutely brutal, but at the same time, we're building up Hayley Atwell's character, and she does a great job in this movie as well. I really do care about her relationship with Tom Cruise, and I do like that they're actually calling out in this movie, and Gabriel's the one who calls this out, and he's like, he's had so many women in his past, and you know what? Look what's happened to all of them. You're just going to be another one in a long line of women. And even he points it out to Palm Clementine that, you know what? Women always fall for this guy, and you're going to end up betraying me. And Palm Clementine, many people know her from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies as Mantis, and she does such a good job in this movie, playing such a different role. In those movies, she's really funny. In this movie, she barely gets to talk. So when you hear her speaking, she goes by the nickname Paris, but she is such a badass. The way she could just take people on and, pretty much end them. And at the end of the day, she kind of saves the day for Hayley Atwell and Tom Cruise's character, setting up the sequel, which I don't know if it's going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2 anymore. There was an article that came out that said that this film was delayed and that they were going to change the name. I really hope they don't do that. I believe that Paramount kind of is getting cold feet after the amount of money this movie made. And it's really not the movie's fault. It's just where you placed it. Paramount, Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie, they got too big for their britches, and they said, hey, we can come out 10 days before Barbie and Oppenheimer. We'll still do fine. But once Barbie and Oppenheimer came out, it cut this film's box office at the legs. It never stood a chance. And it's a real shame, because I do think this is the third best Mission Impossible film in the franchise. Does it have its flaws? Yes, it does. There are some silly moments in this movie. There are some questionable acting moments in this movie. It's not a flawless film. It definitely has some holes in it. Tom Cruise is actually starting to show his age a little bit. I kind of noticed that maybe the 4K was enhancing that. Yes, they're kind of de-aging him a little bit, but when you start thinking, it starts to creep in the back of your mind that this is a 60-year-old man. He really shouldn't be doing these things anymore. You know, he should really be sunsetting the part of this career and transitioning into playing older characters, but he's still so good at it. He's probably the only guy who could do some of these stunts, and the stunts in this movie are just absolutely incredible. I still don't think we've gotten to the point where we were in Dubai and Ghost Protocol. That's still the best stunt, I think, in the franchise, but this one is filled with great stunts when they're in Abu Dhabi, Venice, Rome, building up to the big Orient Express train thing, where they actually used a real train. They crashed that train for real, and it's in the same exact quarry as Dial of Destiny, so I thought that was pretty cool. 2 movies that came out this year dealing with the Orient Express, and that whole sequence, that's basically the whole third act of this movie, is just absolutely astonishing. You feel the tension when they're trying to stop the train from crashing. They really do a good job in this movie of building that up, setting up Dead Reckoning Part 2. Hopefully that's what it's called. You know, leaving it on a cliffhanger in a year filled with cliffhanger movies like Fast X or Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You know, we got another one in this, but this one didn't feel that disappointing of an ending. It feel like they closed some loops while leaving some ready to go for the second movie. You still feel like you got a completed film in 2 hours and 43 minutes. That's what you hope. I still think that Dead Reckoning Part 1 is one of the best in the Mission Impossible franchise, and if you haven't checked it out, you're doing yourself a disservice, because these movies are just a lot of fun. They're there to entertain you while also being very smartly written and smartly made. So they are some of the best movies to come out in one of the most consistent franchises, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 is no different. But before we move on to the 4K Blu-ray review, if you are a fan of Let's Talk, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We also have channel memberships right now, so you can hit that join button or click the link in the description below. That really would help the channel out, but it's no pressure at all. So let's talk about this new Paramount 4K. Well, here it is, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 on 4K Blu-ray. You also could have got this in a steelbook. I opted for the slipcover, mainly because if you guys look over here, all of my Mission Impossibles have been in slipcovers. Now, my only complaint is they did this really bright steelbook for the steelbooks. Meanwhile, earlier this year, they came out with Mission Impossible 1 through 6 in these really nice designed steelbooks. I really wish that they would have done the same thing for Dead Reckoning Part 1 and really made those uniform for the steelbook collectors out there. But I'm sure some people like this Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning steelbook. Me, personally, I don't really like it. I think that the slipcover version is best, although I really think that Fallout and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, these kind of have very generic artwork on these standard Blu-rays. Not too big of a fan. I wish they would have done something that's more uniform with the other 4K Blu-rays, but these are minor complaints about the packaging. Some people probably don't even really care about that. I have to bring it up because, well, it's me. And, you know, we got a nice slipcover here, which is really cool. You slide that off. You go inside, you're going to get a nice black 4K disc because it's Paramount, and a light blue Blu-ray disc because it's Paramount. Now, that Blu-ray disc surprised me because I thought that that was going to be the film on Blu-ray. No, that's just all of your extras are on that second Blu-ray disc, and they're promoting on the back of the box over 30 minutes of extras. Remember the days when they used to promote over 15 hours of extras making of documentaries? No, you get none of that here. All it is segments exploring how they were making the stunts, and if you guys actually saw this movie in theaters, in IMAX theaters, or in Dolby theaters, they were actually doing previews of these stunts before movies. Not even just Dead Reckoning, but they did do some before Dead Reckoning, but other movies as well. They were kind of using that in place of trailers, so now you just get all of those on the bonus disc. So it's nothing new. They pre-recorded these for marketing purposes, but I guess it's cool that we got that. At least we got some sort of bonus features. So there is no film version of the Blu-ray. You're only going to get the film on the 4K Blu-ray, and that's pretty cool. The 4K Blu-ray itself does have Dolby Vision HDR10. It's got a brand new Dolby Atmos track, and of course, it's a 2023 film. You know, just like Top Gun Maverick last year, the Dolby Atmos track is just absolutely outstanding, almost reference quality. 10 out of 10 audio. I mean, you hear stuff coming from behind you. This is what Dolby Atmos is designed for, is for action films like this, where you get bullets flying for all over the room. You know, the score is pumping. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your stomach. And this Dolby Atmos track is just one of the best out there. Probably one of the best to come out in 2023. Now, as far as the visuals go, I actually thought Mission Impossible Fallout was one of the worst looking 4Ks in the Mission Impossible franchise. I think a lot of that had to do with the cinematography, mainly because they want each film in the franchise to look different from the other ones. So even though Christopher McQuarrie has done the last 3 films in the franchise, all 3 films have their unique look to it, and I feel like Mission Impossible Fallout was kind of using that look that modern films like to use, where they like to blow out the lights, overexpose them, maybe have some like hazy fog around them. They do that in parts in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, like in the Venice sequence, but for the most part they kind of shied away from that. I really am not a big fan of that look. It's a thing they do in a lot of modern horror films as well. It's just a modern thing, using digital cameras. You like to enhance it in post, but I just don't really like that look, and Mission Impossible Fallout for that reason was just not a great looking 4K for me, but it did have that halo jump sequence where the aspect ratio increase slowly while Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill are standing at the end of the plane. Love that sequence. Now, this movie was also shot using IMAX cameras, but the aspect ratio does not increase to the IMAX 1.43. It stays the entire time in the 2.39 aspect ratio, so you're not going to see increases in the aspect ratio on the screen. And for the most part, you won't even really notice when they're shooting with different cameras. Everything kind of looks the same, except for that Venice sequence, like I said earlier. So this 4K Blu-ray, in my opinion, is absolutely gorgeous. Not the best looking 4K Blu-ray I've ever seen, but it is stunning. They did add some digital grain because I did shoot this on digital cameras, so you will notice that, but I still think it's a gorgeous looking 4K Blu-ray. It is from Paramount, and they've done amazing work with Top Gun Maverick from last year and the previous Mission Impossible 4K, so you know what? I expected this to look good, and of course it looks absolutely stunning. Whether you're watching Dolby Vision or HDR10, I tested them both out. Both look great, very comparable. Didn't really see too much of a difference, if any at all. And I mean, there are sequences in this movie, like when they're in that club in Venice and you get the blues, the pinks, and the purples all flying around in the background. I mean, it's eye candy. And there are numerous sequences in this because this is a very colorful movie. They really did choose a lot of like bright colors, like they're driving around the yellow Fiat, all the clothes that people are wearing. They're not very like plain Jane. The backgrounds all have colors in it, things that are going to pop. Yes, there's sequences in the desert that look very flat, but that's intended. But still, even those sequences, the sand is just popping off the screen. Now, one thing I thought that was really cool about the visuals, and this just could be the actor they got to do it, but there's a scene early in the movie where Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt is wearing a mask of another character, and, you know, he doesn't speak or anything, but they're going around the room in the 4K, you know, we're really seeing people's skin. Like, we can see every little blemish, if their skin is kind of greasy, if they got some sweat rolling down, and then they zoom in on Ethan Hunt, and we don't know it's Ethan Hunt yet, but it looks like his skin is fake. You know, that's one thing I've always complained about the franchise is, like, these masks look stupid as hell until they put them on their face and they just switch actors, which I love it, by the way. That's one little tangent of, you know, that's a story for another day, but I do love that these actors get to play. They basically get to change roles mid-movie and just play somebody playing themselves. So that's always really fun as well in this franchise. But again, like the actor kind of looked like his skin was fake. I don't know if that was planned or not. Maybe the actor's skin looks like that naturally, but it's like, okay, you could pick out that this guy's wearing a mask. I don't know if that was intentional. The 4K is just enhancing something, but I noticed that watching it this time, and I thought that was just absolutely awesome. I don't know if it was planned or not, but I still thought it was really cool. So the visuals are just absolutely stunning. 9 out of 10 on the visuals, in my opinion. But like I said earlier, I'm very disappointed in the extras. We really got nothing new for this 4K, and that really does kind of bother me. In the previous 4Ks, you know, we've gotten some making-ofs, a lot more interviews, and I get it. It's a new release. That doesn't really happen with new releases. I would have appreciated it. I guess I'm very appreciative that we did get the second Blu-ray disc, and, you know, for the most part, Paramount not releasing stuff with a second Blu-ray disc. But this is pretty pricey. You know, it's a brand new 4K Blu-ray, so I would have liked a little bit more. So if you can wait for a sale, that is my recommendation. You know, about $20. This is definitely worth it for that price. You know, it's a studio release, so more than likely this will be involved in sales in the future. So if you're in no rush to watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I recommend waiting for this 4K to drop in price. But if you do want to grab it, you're a huge fan of the franchise like myself, you will not be disappointed in those visuals and audio. You just might be a little bit disappointed in the extras. And the packaging, in my opinion, is not the greatest. How would I rate this film in 4K Blu-ray and all of its bells and whistles on a score of 1 to 10? Well, I would still give this 4K Blu-ray a pretty damn solid 8.5 out of 10. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we also have channel membership, so I want to thank my director, our first director here on the channel, Kevin Kruger. He's a big supporter of the channel, and we will have his first choice review this upcoming Monday. So if you join the director's tier, you do have your choice of reviews and plenty of more perks. And I also want to thank my two producers, Jason Martin and Frank Rodriguez. I really do appreciate your support. And if you guys want to join channel memberships, you can click in the link in the description below, or you can hit that join button. It's no pressure at all. You don't have to do it. All you got to do is just hit that like and subscribe button, get out in those streets, and tell your friends about us. And then we'll be seeing you around.